This
Hey,
meeting is being recorded.
All right, guys. It's time for another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files. I'm your host, Stephen Keeler, the Rock Fantasy Man. Tonight, we set the time capsule to 1967. So are you guys ready? I got a little bit of story about 1967. I'm going to start off with just some news stories to put you into that year. The Green Bay Packers defeated the Kansas City Chiefs to win the first AFL NFL championship game at the LA Coliseum. The Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. The 76ers won the NBA. St. Louis Cardinals took the World Series. Expo 67 World's Fair opens up in Montreal, and I was a participant. I went with my parents. War rages on in Vietnam. Protests against the war and race riots break out around the U.S. We've got at the box office, we've got some movies. The Graduate, Disney's animated The Jungle Book, You Only Live Twice, the Bond film was out, To Sir With Love, The Graduate, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and The Son of Godzilla are released. I had to throw that in because that's one of my favorites. Evel Knievel attempts to jump 141 feet over the Caesar's Palace fountains of the Vegas Strip and crashes. Charles Manson's released from the Terminal Island prison and relocates to San Francisco for the Summer of Love. Elvis Presley gets married. The Grateful Dead, Jimi Hendrix, and Pink Floyd release albums. The Beatles have the #1 album of the year with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Coming in second is the debut album from The Doors. The #1 song in 67 is To Sir With Love by Lulu. A band named The Doors after being the house band in LA at the Whiskey A Go-Go releases their debut album, and we're going to be visiting the two albums by Jim Morrison, The Doors, and we've got a big panel tonight. I've asked our panelists to do our usual of picking 3 songs from each record and pick their favorite tracks, give the album a rating, and we'll see which one becomes our favorite. And we're just going to talk about 67 a little bit. Here's just a little info on the debut album. It was recorded by producer Paul A. Rothschild and audio engineer Bruce Botnick at the Sunset Sound Studios in Hollywood, California. On August 14th to 29th in 1966, the album was certified 4 times platinum here in the United States. The song Light My Fire spent 3 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart in July 29th, August 5th, and came back a year later and was #1 again on the Cashbox Top 167, nearly a year after its recording. Here's a little bit about Strange Days album. The Strange Days was released on September 25th, 67 by Elektra Records. Also, the album was quite successful, reaching #3 in the United States during a 63-week chart stay in November 67. Its impact was accentuated by the enduring success of the band's debut album, which remained in the top 10 over 10 months after its release during a 122-week stay. Additionally, it wasn't immensely successful in sales compared to the debut. And I'd like to welcome everyone here. Jack had a question. How many of us were actually alive when this came out? I am one, obviously, because I said it was at Expo 67 and I was about 6 years old. Rand was alive because Rand's the elder guy. Respect your elders, and that's Rand. And Jack says he was around too. I think he's around the same age as me.
3 years old.
I was 14.
A little tidbit on the album cover of Strange Days. There was a photograph by Joel Brodsky. It depicts a group of street performers in New York. The location of this photograph is at Sniffen Court, a residential alley next to East 36th Street between Lexington and 3rd Avenue, Manhattan. The availability of such performers' pictures was low, so Brodsky's assistant stood in his jugular while a random cab driver was paid $5 to pose playing the trumpet. Twin draws were hired, one was appearing on the front cover and one appearing on the back cover, which is the other half of the same photo on the front cover. The single People Are Strange peaked at #12 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the US. I have a surprise guest that couldn't make it tonight, but he's given me my picks, so I will add them later on during the show. And he is a star of 1960s television, a television sitcom that most of us find dear to our hearts. So I'll have that surprise later. I will kick this show off, and I'm going to let be respectful to my elders, and I will let Rand Kelly go first in case he gets tired staying up so late. Right, Rand? Are you good with that, Rand?
Yeah, I gotta take care of my cat. I'll be right back.
Oh, so Rand's leaving already, so he's not going first. He doesn't like going first.
I
So
thought you said you were gonna go first.
The cat's out of the bag.
I said that he was going to go first because he's the elder.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I gotta take him out.
All right, so we'll kick over to one of the youngest guys on the channel. We're going to talk to Andrew Mercer. Andrew, welcome to the show, and let's give your input on these two great albums from 1967. Andrew.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So first of all, I discovered the Doors in high school. I was a little hesitant to get into them. Like I was like a metal guy, but I liked classic rock. I was a big Zeppelin guy, Black Sabbath. And I just never really got into the Doors. I felt like it would be kind of like a little too soft for me. Like, oh, they do poetry. Like they didn't even have a bassist in the band. So I never really listened to them until I had this good friend who was kind of a stoner. And he was like, yo, dude, he was like a Jim Morrison impersonator. He's like, I'm Mojo Rising. Like he would always talk about the Doors. So I was like, all right, let me check this out. And I was blown away, man. Like it was, there was nothing like them that I had heard. And like, even to this day, I don't think there's a band that really sounds like them. A lot of that has to do with the organ. Like the organ is really never like a consistent instrument. But to get to the albums, I prefer the first one to Strange Days. It was closer than I thought it would be. Like Strange Days, I like it a lot because it's a much darker record lyrically. So like I kind of wanted to pick that one more than the first one, but like it's just not. Like the first one's a classic. Like it's like it transcended music, you know. So my three songs from the first album, I'm gonna go with my favorite one. You men eat your chicken, eat your pork and beans, Backdoor Man. That's my favorite track. And then I got Light My Fire and Crystal Ship. And then from People Are Strange, my three favorite, Strange Days. I got People Are Strange, which is an anthem, Moonlight Drive, and Your Lost Little Girl. So those are my three for each album.
Okay.
Good picks.
And you're going with the first one for
I'm going
your
with the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, Strange Days is a classic album, but you can't argue it, in my opinion.
So Rand, are you ready to go?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
I got clawed.
Uh-oh.
Oh, the blood.
Cats, man. Okay. This guy here. The first thing I ever heard was Light My Fire, and it was being played on AM radio all the time. And it was, I think, the longest running single that they ever had. I'm not sure about that, but it seemed like it went forever.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, they were playing the long version on AM radio in Eureka and in Sacramento, because I was visiting my cousins for a couple of weeks down there and I heard it there. They had a single edit where they took out the solo from Ray and Robbie, the two solos that connect. And so the song was really short, but the people, the kids, would call the DJs up at the radio stations where you could really do this, a request, and they'd say, please play the version on the album, and they would, and you would just like, you get to hear it, and it was just awesome. As a upcoming guitar player, I was really glad to be able to hear Robbie play that solo. Ow. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and choose my three because I'm bleeding.
I guess I could have had you go last. Tend to your wounds.
You know, this switched around so much on me because, God, there's so many good songs on this first album. I mean, God, Light My Fire is so important. I mean, it just changed everything. It was just so different. And the solo is just 2 chords back and forth, A minor, B minor, A minor, B minor. But it's just amazing what they do with it. So I'm going to go with number 3 as the end, which is amazing song. And I'm going to go with Light My Fire as 2. And I'm going to go with The Crystal Ship as 1, just because I just love that song. I just think it's amazing. Wonderful, wonderful freaking song. And for a debut album, I mean, you got to give it a 10. And moving on to Strange Days, I'm going to give, oh my God. Love Me 2 Times is really popular. I played a lot, but I don't really like that song very much. But I played it in bands and that got kind of tired of it. So I'm going to go ahead and give People Are Strange number 3, Strange Days number 1, and my very favorite song of these 2 albums is When the Music's Over. I love that song. It's so good. And the version on Absolutely Live is hilarious because he can't get the crowd to be quiet, and he says, "You don't want to hear this for 20 minutes, do you?" It's just changing there. But anyways, yeah, I'm going to give this a 10.
Okay.
And also, it's my favorite. I like Strange Days more than the debut.
Okay.
Believe it or not, just because of When the Music's Over. I just think it's that good a song. But Crystal Ship it just tears my heart apart every time I hear it. I just love it. I love to sing it.
So you're going with Strange Days for the win. So we got one.
Yeah, Strange Days.
We got one for the debut, one for Strange Days. And we're from Rand. I'm going to move over to Jack for All or Nada. Up in the corner there, he's got his guitar is all set up. He's ready to do a song first, maybe.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Good to have you on, bro.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, so I think mine will be relatively quick. So we're comparing the Doors' first album and the second album, Strange Days. So the first album is killer. I mean, pretty much every track on this album is a great track. So it was hard for me to pick, but I'm actually going to say Light My Fire. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 20th Century Fox number 3. That's a song that resonated with me throughout high school. That was a very popular track. So I was in high school from 79 to 82 and, got a lot of airplay. Just nice short song, but great. Light My Fire will be number 2 for me. I just love the keyboards. That makes this whole song for me. That between, Ray Manzarek and trading back and forth with Robbie Krieger on electric guitar. So amazing, amazing song. And as we were debating before we went on the air, you cannot cut this song down. It destroys it. Number 1 for me, and this has always resonated with me ever since I had the Doors' Greatest Hits album, Soul Kitchen. I just love that keyboard in the beginning. Just a great song.
Yep.
Do. Yeah.
Agree.
And, it's slow in parts, but it picks up. Good stuff. I'm even going to give a shout out to Take It As It Comes for a short song. That's a great song too. So that's the Doors. I gave the album a 9.5 out of 10. Strange Days, I wasn't as generous. I would say 7 out of 10. And I am going to go with the cliche numbers here. So the number 3 is the title track, Strange Days. Number 2, People Are Strange. Slow, but a very good song. Another song that I've resonated with. And number 1 is the one that Rand basically tossed away, Love Me 2 Times. Such a great riff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Shout out to When the Music's Over, because that's That's one of their best long songs. And I do not like horse latitudes. Too out there for me.
I like that song. I like that.
You know, as we established on Sea of Tranquility a long time ago, we all hear things differently. So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I just thought it was funny.
yeah.
That's
So
why we all
that's
have
mine.
different brains and ears. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Jack's coming in with the debut for a win. I want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I say one more thing?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Back in 2005, 2006, I was writing for Pete for a little while on Sea of Tranquility.
Okay.
Before there was ever, YouTube vlogs and
Mm.
Hudson Valley Squares or anything like that. And he actually sent me on assignment to see the new Doors at Jones Beach Amphitheater, and they were just phenomenal. It was like seeing the real Doors. I mean, you had Raymond Zarek, Robbie Krieger, you had a bassist and a drummer, and you had a Jim Morrison lookalike. And they opened with one of my favorite songs, Peace Frog. Doesn't get any better than that.
Love that song.
Yeah. And then they closed with LA Woman. So
Was it Ian from Ian Ashbury, or who was singing?
From the cult?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, might have been Asbury.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's called the 21st Century Doors, right?
But Raymond Zarek did all the speaking to the crowd, being the elder and the leader of the band at that time. But what a great show.
yeah.
It was a bucket list item.
Chris Allo was talking to me just earlier tonight as we were taping a different episode for the channel, and he said that he went to see the Doors once, and I said, wait a minute, you're not old enough to go see the Doors. And then he had saw the same tour that you saw, Jack.
Okay.
And
Well,
Ian Asbury stepped in, and
Yeah.
there was some legal issues with that, and
Right.
but
That's as good as it gets.
oh yeah, I heard it
Well,
was
when I
good.
first saw
I
it-
didn't attend.
Right.
When I first saw the Cult on MTV, I said to myself, that guy should just go out and do Jim Morrison. He sounds just like him.
Which he did. My surprise guest couldn't make it tonight. He got last booked, but I'm talking about Butch Patrick, who portrayed Eddie Munster in the 60s
yeah.
series, The Munsters. I was chatting with him, and I invited him because he was interested in doing a couple episodes here and there. And I said, talk to him a little bit about the Doors, and he said, yeah, I'll give you the picks. He didn't pick a winner, so I didn't get that far with him, but I have some good picks from him today. And his picks from the first album were I Looked at You, Crystal Ship, and The End. He mentions that he was dating, his picks from Strange Days rather are The Music's Over, You're a Lost Little Girl, and People Are Strange. He mentioned he was dating a girl in the canyons in the summer of '69 and relates to the song The End from that time period and how scary it was because he was up in the canyon. And he's a little bit older than me. I thought he was more about the same age. I think he's more like Rand's age, but he said at the time he was about 16 years old, 17 years old. And he sent me a picture of him driving this like Mustang Mach 1. And he said it was a scary time. And that song's not about the Tate murders, but in his, sometimes you can relate a song to any kind of experience in your life. Just wanted to mention, hey, a shout out to Butch Patrick, and he's down in Myrtle Beach doing a signing, and he's a good friend of mine and good friend of Rock Fantasies. And he was in the shop not too long ago. He was up here to watch the Super Bowl with some friends. So. But anyhow, we're going to kick it over to Ralph next and get his 2 cents. We're going to pass that record album over to him, and he's got all of his nice Jim Morrison and Doors memorabilia, of course, all around, as you see. I call him our metal historian, and he is a collector for sure.
All right, thanks for having me again. All right, starting off with the self-titled debut, such a great debut. It's very similar to the Hendrix episode we did with the amazing debut, and putting out 2 albums in 1 year. It's like just incredible. So for number 3, I'm gonna do the album opener, Break On Through. I love
yeah.
it. Even though it's played out and you hear it constantly, it's such a great way to kick off their whole career. For number 2, I'm going with Soul Kitchen, another classic. And my number one is Take It As It Comes. Specialize
Nice.
in having fun. I love that song.
Yes.
Some honorable mentions. I mean, you can mention everything, but I'll go with The End, The Crystal Ship, and 20th Century Fox. They almost all made the list. But then jumping over to Strange Days, Love Me Two Times for number 3. Strange Days kicks off the album. I love that song for number 2. And you got to go with When the Music's Over. This album, like every song's like 2 minutes, and then you hit this 11-minute song, and it's epic and such a great song. I'm gonna give the debut a 9, and I'm gonna give Strange Days an 8. So another one for the debut.
Cool. So you're going with the debut? All right. How about we travel up to Canada and see Mr. Rick Labonte?
Hey,
Well, yeah, this is another tough battle because they're great achievements in both albums. And like everybody has said, The Doors for me was one of the things that you go to a party as a teenager and somebody kicking that on. And I thought, my dad played that around the house. And my dad loved The Doors. And so, but I didn't know till I got to the whole discography, at least with Jim's career, how deep and about the improvisation and everything he's known as a poet. It got more deep. I was just listening to the music on the surface, but then you listen to the words, it's pretty amazing. And what a mark to make, right? When to be already understood as an intelligent rocker, because that's what they gave everybody in the first album. Everybody understood that these guys are different, and there's something intelligent about their presentation. So let's start with the first album. Well, this is a great record, right? Because for all the reasons that everybody said, it's hit after hit, and they done in a fashion that it's almost singled. Every song could have been a 45 too, to make sure they got play, and leaving the very epic that you have to have an album in order to get it. And pretty daring to have something about, what he was trying to get across about the killer who woke up before dawn, puts his boots on, walked down the hall, and, and visit his mom and dad and stuff like that. It's pretty daring stuff. There's no question about it. So they had that pop reference where people can catch on their tunes. And a lot of you guys have mentioned those songs. My favorite 3 for this, it's hard to do because I see a lot of these songs equal. In fact, I wouldn't play what would be on the greatest hits. I would love to do songs like Take It As It Come, The End of the Night, because they're all the deep tracks are some of the best. But if I were to be honest with myself, what are the 3 most dynamic, important songs to me in this album? I'm going to go with The End, number 3. Number 2, I wrestle with this with Crystal Ship and Light My Fire, but I'm going to go with Crystal Ship. I really love singing that. And myself as a singer, I just love the dynamic that they do. But number 1 is Break On Through. To me, I still do that in my band. Every now and then we throw a medley and we jam that out. And it's like Ralph said, it's a passionate song. It's a great opener to introduce himself, but it rocks. And it's intelligent at the same time. So The End is great because of all the drama that it creates. But then we go to the next album. And, Strange Days, they're starting to know themselves. What's different about this album, obviously the first album, they have a couple covers, right? They have that Wixty or Alabama song, Wixty bar song, and then they have the Backdoor Man, which is a great Willie Dixon, the poet of the blues, tune, and I love that stuff. And this album, on Strange Days, it's all them, including that strange horse latitude, which is just spoken word with some improvisation. It's something they would do creatively on stage, and you can only appreciate it probably if you drop an acid or two. But this is what makes this album not perfect. Like, I think the first album is a 10 out of 10 for knowing what The Doors is about. They did put out a great record. That is a filler, but it's only a minute and 30 seconds. I mean, I don't have a short attention span where I can't handle Jim Morrison throwing out to poetry, so it's not that bad. But if we were going song by song and trying to say, because there's a lot of great contenders on both albums, and I agree with Rand that my favorite song out of the both album is When the Music's Over. So that will be number one. Number two would be Your Lost Little Girl, and number three, this is wrestles with a lot of them. I like Love Me Two Times a lot, but I'm gonna go with Moonlight Drive. I haven't played that to death, and I like that. So go Moonlight Drive, Your Lost Little Girl, and then When the Music's Over. It's almost like a whole concert in one little tune, right? It was a great epic because if you wanted to kind of sum up what the Doors really about in 10 minutes, that song does it. And it's very dramatic, and I think it's a kick-ass tune. Now, it's not a perfect album for me. It's damn well close. If I could get away with it, I'd say it's a draw. But I'm going to go the first album by a hair over because of Horse Latitude. And that's literally a minute and 30 seconds different, really, okay? Because everything else is a perfect record in number two. I enjoyed every song. I think it's a shame some of these tracks never did get the airwave play that it should because it sounds so accessible. Especially My Eyes Have Seen You, I Can't See Your Face in My Mind, or, the ones we mentioned. But anyway, I'll go with the debut, the first album, Only by a Hair, folks.
Cool. So now we're going to go, man, Zoom is amazing. We're going to go from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, all the way to the dark winter in Norway, to Ove.
Hey.
You gotta wake you up
Yeah.
there. I know it's like 4 a.m. there, and you look like you might be starting to doze off a little, Ove.
No, I'm good. I'm just trying to listen to everything that's been said.
Of course.
Yeah, so nobody has mentioned that the first album has been in the wrong speed for the first 50 years. So for the 50th anniversary, they released it in correct speed.
Really?
I didn't know that.
It's been a little too slow. Like it's very little, but it's been a little too slow. So it's been brought up to speed, to correct speed for the 150th anniversary remaster.
Yeah,
I
I guess he stumped us on this one. I didn't know that. Jack, did you know that? You're shaking your head,
No,
yes?
no,
Okay.
total news to me.
Hmm.
Man, I didn't know.
We'll have to fact check that one, viewers.
There'll always be one out there that's gonna correct us all, right?
Oh, that there's gonna be one.
Oh, yeah.
I have that box set that's like a door with all those 50s remasters in it.
Okay.
Yeah, so for the first album, I really like the first album. I think I'm just gonna go with the songs. I have Crystal Ship number 3 because of the beautiful solos and lyrics and all. It's a very special song. It's nothing like it.
Right on.
Dreamy.
Yeah, for number 2, I'm going to go with The End. And for number 1, I'm going to go End of the Night, because it's almost end of the night for me. But the end of the night is just that magical vibe. It has like I don't know, you imagine Jim Morrison as a mystical person, and it's like End of the Night has that kind of dreamy feeling to it. It's like you're in a haze of something or another. Strange Days, I really like it because it's so experimental. It has so many small things in it. It's like you have to really to listen to that album because there's small things they have just put in. So it's like I hear new things, like, yeah, and every time I hear it, it's like, oh, this is something new. I know, and they also had, I believe, a lot of visitors of famous people during those recordings, because Jim would invite Beach Boys and all kind of people into the studios and stuff. So it was kind of like a party, I guess, around the recordings. So there's a lot of famous people. That was in on the like in and listen to the recordings, and I really like the Doors.
Mhm.
That's I've been done my homework. For Strange Days, I will go number 3. I Can't See Your Face in My Mind, because I really like that. What's that instrument? Those wooden things they hit on.
Yep.
Xylophone.
Yes, yes, I really like, because it sets a certain vibe, and
Yep.
and the lyrics of I Can't See Your Face in My Mind is so well balanced over those wooden. It's just a magical song. It's just there's nothing like it, like Crystal Ship. I kind of see the pull similarity between those two, because those songs are special. They
Yeah, they're
stand out in the
similar.
album. Yeah. For number 2, I did Strange Days, and it's still relevant today.
Psychedelic.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
I say that all the time, man.
yeah. And number 1, the music is not over, but when the music's over, then it's no more. There's no point of going on.
Mm.
I really like both albums a lot. But for me, it's Strange Days, because Strange Days it's experimental. It's like it has a feeling that the first album is very clean. It's very clean, professional, very good. But for me, Strange Days is more organic. It's more, it has a different vibe to it. It's more like a pulsing, like alive.
Mhm.
It's more like a live feeling than the first album. So I go with Strange Days.
Thank you for not
I'll-
keeping me out there by myself.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
it wouldn't
will
break
give-
my heart whatever win, because these albums are awesome.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna
Okay.
lose no sleep. Win inside. They get a tug of war that to me the draw.
I gave them both
No.
10s, didn't I?
I will give the first album 9 out of 10, because it has 2 covers, and I will give Strange Days 10 out of 10, because it's
Okay, fair
my
enough.
favorite
All
Doors
original,
album ever.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you, Ove. And I'm
Awesome.
going to move over to Mr. Ryan Gavalier, and welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thank you.
Good to have you back on the channel.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's always
Welcome back.
That's that's the Welcome Back Cotter episode, Rand.
John Sebastian.
70 sitcoms for 500, please.
yeah. So the Doors, like Andrew, I got into them in high school. They kind of like changed my world in some ways or another. I guess like I first got into them through the debut album. Then I think I watched the movie, which at this point I kind of have some mixed feelings about, even though I think it's a good movie. But then I just went down the whole rabbit hole, listened to all their albums, loved them. My senior year of high school, I was in one of the first bands that I was in. And I was playing guitar and singing in that one. We did a lot of Doors songs, and I would always put my guitar away when I was doing a Doors song, because they're just like, I guess they kind of like spoke to me on different levels, and like I kind of just wanted to be completely in the vocals, in the lyrics, and not guitar, because they're just amazing. Like Jim Morrison's immortal in his influence, and just like he's just fantastic. So the first album, it's definitely a classic. I mean, it's revolutionary in what it did. I mean, you hear Break On Through the Other Side, and it's just like there's like a danger in that. There's an energy that's just so unmistakable. You just rock out to that song. You've got Soul Kitchen, which is a great song. You got Crystal Ship, which is beautiful. Alabama Song, which is a good cover. Light My Fire is really cool. Back to My Man, etc. Like just so many good songs on this album. My top 3 on it. Number 3, I'm gonna go with End of the Night. It's just kind of a spooky song, really trippy. I've always really liked that one a lot. It's, you know, it has one of his most beautiful vocal performances too. I almost picked Crystal Ship. For me, they're like a perfect pair. But I gave the edge to End of the Night. My number 2 is going to be Light My Fire, mostly because of that interplay of the solos between Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger. It's just so awesome when, you know, Ray comes in with that, it's just so cool. Just a great song and definitely revolutionary. And then my number 1 on there is going to be The End. You know, it's honestly like not my favorite lyric by Jim Morrison. There's some really great lyrics in that song. There's some that get a little bit stupid at times, if I'm to be completely honest, but that's not why I listen to the song. I mean, you hear just the passion in his voice, and like, you know, as he gets farther into the song, how frantic and energetic his performance is. It's just fantastic. And then you have like John Densmore's drum sound in that song, which is just absolutely beautiful. Robbie Krieger's guitar tone, which is unmistakably awesome. You know, and just fantastic song. One of my favorites by them of all time. Then Strange Days. First of all, I love this album cover. It's probably one of my favorite album covers of all time. Super surreal, which kind of like brings you into the album. I think this album's fantastic top to bottom. I like every single song on it. I'll go with my top 3 songs. So number 3, I'm gonna go with Moonlight Drive. I really dig this song mostly because of the weird guitar sounds that Robbie makes throughout it. It's so cool, and it just has a really nice groove to it too. My number 2 is going to be When the Music's Over. When I was in that band that I was talking about, that was one of my favorite ones that we would do together. You know, we performed it out a couple times, but a lot of times it would just be in my one friend's basement. We would just go hard on that song. You know, it's just such an awesome keyboard riff, and then when that drum fill comes in, and then he just like screams and starts vocal performance off, it's just so awesome. Just a great jam track, very live sounding. And then my number 1 is going to be Strange Days. Just super trippy song. I love that organ riff, that down. It's just like, it kind of like takes you to a different world when you hear it. Like you can hear the darkness in that riff, and you can see it. The band has matured to an even darker, more psychedelic sound on this album. Yeah, and I mean, I like I said, I love everything on here though. I do like Horse Latitudes too. It's really cool. But if I'm going to choose my favorite between these 2 albums, I'm going to go with Strange Days. You know, like I said, I like that one top to bottom. There's a couple songs on the debut that I could go without hearing. Like I Looked at You. You know, I don't really dig that song that much. It's not very memorable to me. It's not like unlistenable. I just don't really like it. And then there's also 2 covers. I mean, they're really good covers, but I like that everything's original on this one. So I guess that's why this one gets the edge. I mean, they were a bit more experimental. I think they matured a lot in their sound in a very short amount of time, kind of like what we talked about with Jimi Hendrix. It was just like such a short amount of time. Like they recorded the first one in 66, this in 67, and it's like very different. So yeah, I'll take Strange Days, and I'd give it a 10 out of 10. And then the Doors debut, probably like an 8.5.
Yeah, Ryan, I agree with you. If you compare the Hendrix from this year to the Doors, it seems like the first album had more notoriety, of course, sold a lot more. Giant hit, Light My Fire, where this one doesn't have as big of hits, but it's just a totally different feel. I agree with that.
Sure.
Of course, 67 was also a year for Jim Morrison where he was the first rock star to ever be arrested on stage during a concert performance up in New Haven. He had been, making out with a girl and backstage, and cops thought he was just somebody, and they tried to kick him out, and he pretty much told me to eat it, and they said, last chance, eat it, and then they maced him supposedly, and then he ended up going on stage, and the cops got all over him and pulled him off stage, and that was New Haven. And also in '67 he was on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he got in trouble for saying higher, which Ed Sullivan and the censor said not to sing higher on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he did it anyhow. Of course, getting high in 1967 was very.
But the funny part though is about
That's
is
so
like
metal.
Jefferson Airplane could talk about chasing white rabbits and stuff. That was fine.
But of course,
But that was from Alice in Wonderland, though.
Little kids thought it was from Alice in Wonderland Disney. That's why you couldn't say hi, and there was.
Yeah, but she talks about pills.
But
Yeah.
as a little kid, at 6 years old, listening to that song, you had no idea that she was talking about drugs. You thought she was talking about like rabbits and cartoons.
Even the Rolling Stones were instructed, let's spend the night together. They couldn't say, let's spend the night together. Let's
spend some time together.
Yeah.
Instead of night together. They caved in, and the only difference is they were invited to come back. Where Jim Morrison said, "What's the point? We already did Ed Sullivan. We don't have to go back." They said,
You'll never come back on the show again.
Stick it to the man, Jim. Stick it to the man.
So
that was interesting.
So things have evened up a little. We got 4 people going for the debut. We got 3 for Strange Days. We're going to move over to my old friend John Cavaluzzi down in North Carolina. John, welcome to the show. Good to see you again.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
So, both these albums are great. The Doors were kind of like that, I would say, for us, like gateway, because when you grow up listening to metal, it was like the Doors, the Beatles, later Beatles, and Pink Floyd. That was like the first entrance into non-metal stuff, and I don't know, they're just great. Plus, I don't know, like when I was in college and stuff, you couldn't bring girls back to your apartment with all your friends and put on the new Bolt Thrower. They weren't going to be interested in listening to it. So put on either like the Doors, Pink Floyd, or something. But both albums are great. I would, I guess for the first album, I would go with Break On Through, Take It As It Comes. And I like the Alabama song. I don't care if it's a cover. It kind of reminds me of the Benefit of Mr. Kite or something like that. It's just kind of weird and cool. I love it. As far as Strange Days, I'd go with Strange Days number 3, People Are Strange number 2, and When the Music's Over number 1. And I know a lot of people don't like the movie or have, maybe it's not perfect interpretation of what really happened, but that's one of the only 3 movies I've ever actually seen and paid to see in the movie theater twice. I would never do that usually, to pay twice, but I actually did that with that movie. So anyway, yeah, I think it's great. So if I have to pick one, I'm gonna have to go. You have to go with the first one, the self-titled.
You're going with the first one, okay?
Val Kilmer sings with his own voice on that movie.
What's that, Ove?
Well, Val Kilmer sings on that. It's Val Kilmer that sings the songs.
And it was a very. That movie did, what you can say about it. I mean, it's much like the Queen movie. Not everything was exactly as the way things go in a lot of these motion pictures, but it brought a whole nother generation into the Doors when this motion picture came out, as did the Queen film did recently, for, where people, brought them in, maybe even into rock and roll and classic rock in general, these films. If you're talking about movies that I paid to see, I can tell you, I paid to see Led Zeppelin Song Remains the Same a couple times, and Pink Floyd The Wall a couple times. The modern rock and roll movie I paid to see twice was Tenacious D, Pick a Destiny, actually.
Yeah,
I saw that twice. I went to it once and I went to it again. And I actually, No, the Queen movie I didn't see twice. I saw it again at home with my wife, but I went with a friend to the Queen movie. But
I have a question when you get a chance.
what's that? Well, go ahead, Jack.
So we're talking about movies. How about books? Has anybody read the book with Jim Morrison on the cover? Nobody Gets Out of Here Alive. Oh, Ricky has. Cool. That was a
Yeah, I
great
read it.
book.
Plus,
That
John
was great.
Densmore put a book out, Riders on the Storm. I read that one. That was a good, from the drummer's point of view, you know, all the debates, all the bullshit that went down, you know, the argument between bands over certain decisions that were made, and
Yeah, all
that
the
was pretty
lawsuits.
insightful.
Yeah, I
He got
read
a
a
brand new
book
book,
about
too.
him in the late 70s. I don't remember which book it was, though.
Maybe it was that one, but
It might have been. I remember in at parties, people would ask me questions, and I like Keeler knows everything about the Doors. I probably forgot half of what I read because it was so many years ago now.
It just illustrates how messed up he was, and
Oh,
what
yeah.
a devious mind he had, and
Mm.
how he liked to fuck with people.
For sure. All
But
right.
Steve, just a quick input on about the movie, because Val Kilmer sung in 3 songs, and he sent them to Oliver Stone, and he said he was singing on 2, and Jim was singing on 1, and he was to say who was singing on each song. You know, they were all Val Kilmer's song singing, but he said that Jim was singing on one of them. So he had Oliver Stone try to pick out which song that Jim was singing on and Val was singing on. And he couldn't, of course, figure out which one because they were all Val Kilmer.
He was amazing in that movie.
Yeah,
Hey,
He got
good.
totally,
fantastic.
he got totally lost in that performance. We even got like a poetry book that Val Kilmer did. I got to meet him, and he signed like a Doors movie poster thing, and he was so immersed in that role. And I heard it took him a long time to get out of his system because he was so into it for a while.
He was Jim Morrison for real in life, you know, as he portrayed the acting role. And then because then I mean, he's the only actor I know that was Jim Morrison and the Batman.
That's
And
true.
Doc Holliday.
And Doc Holliday, there
Yes,
we go.
Doc Holliday.
Holiday.
Funny
Oh,
how
Huckleberry.
Because the door, I have the collector edition of the Doors movie, and there's like 40 minutes of deleted scenes.
no.
That could have been in the movie, like Raymond Serrick's wedding and all big things. So I'm like, I wish they would put all that stuff back in the movie. It would be awesome.
Cool. All right.
So
Cool.
next-
Let's move over to Miles and get his pass the record album over to him, and let's hear his 2 cents on this, and then I'll come back to me and give my picks, and we'll kind of wrap this episode up.
So yeah, thank you all for having me. And the Doors. Whew, takes me back to when I was a kid because this is one of my dad's favorite bands. So I grew up hearing the Doors all the time. And even when I go to my dad's house now, when he's cooking out outside by the pool, he's always got the Doors on. The Doors. He loves the Doors. And so I've been knowing about the Doors since I was pretty young, and growing up my dad would always tell me how crazy Jim Morrison was and everything, and I really do enjoy listening to the Doors. Nowadays they have a time and place with me, but I still do enjoy listening to them a lot. The first album, I love this album. It's the album I'm probably the most familiar with the Doors, the other ones being Morrison Hotel and LA Woman. I think Jim Morrison on this record, he sounds haunting at times, like on the song Crystal Ship. He just, that's the thing about Jim Morrison to me, is just that he's a haunting vocalist. It's just, when I hear his music, it just sticks with me because it's just so haunting to me. And when I think about psychedelic rock, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Doors. And if you want that psychedelic keyboard in your music, the Doors are going to do that for you in spades. And 3 songs, I like off this album is Soul Kitchen. Really nice song. Break On Through. No matter how many times I hear that song, I think Jim Morrison in that chorus just sounds so awesome. He sounds like a rock star in that song to me. And my favorite song off this album, and it's my favorite Doors song, is The End. I loved it when it was in Apocalypse Now. I love it just listening to it, just turning it on. There was times where maybe I wasn't in the right headspace for some reasons, and I listened to The End and I got freaked out because that song's just so haunting to me. It's one of the most haunting songs I ever heard. And it's probably one of the best songs I ever heard. It's so good. Yeah, Apocalypse Now, one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. So Strange Days, I wasn't as familiar with, Strange Days. I wasn't as familiar with this album as I was the other albums I said. But I knew songs like Love Me Two Times and People Are Strange. It wasn't how can I put this? It wasn't what I was expecting when going in and listening to the whole album the first time. I'm not saying it was bad, but it was really weird. It was really experimental to me, and it got really psychedelic at times.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The songs that I really liked off of here is My Eyes Have Seen You. I really do like that song. I think the guitars on that song are just so good. Love Me Two Times. It's a bluesy song, and I actually did some research and ran that it was banned in Connecticut for being too risque. This song
in Connecticut.
Yeah, I don't know. I read that. I don't know. You could fact check it, but I read that it was like the radio stations in Connecticut wouldn't play it because it was too risque. So
maybe because he got arrested in Connecticut, and
maybe
he got a bad boy image there.
When I read it was just risque. I mean, 1967 for you.
Yes, it's the 60s, though. You can't say higher. You can't say spend the night together. Yeah,
now you got bands talking about ripping people's faces off and stuff like that. But my favorite song off of here is When the Music's Over. I love the long songs that the Doors do, but just because the instrumentals and the solos in those songs are so good. And I was really surprised by the guitars in this song. They kicked ass. I'm just saying they straight up slayed at times. I was like, I had to go back and I'm like, hold on, this is a Doors song? Because they were really rocking on that song. If I had to give if I had to rate the albums, I'd give Strange Days a 7 out of 10. I know a lot of people really like that album, but maybe I'm not as familiar with that record as some other people. So off my initial listening through the whole album, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Maybe it might get a little bit higher, spending some more time with it. But the debut, I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10, just because it does have some covers on it. But I really do like that song, and the songs on there that I really do like, I really do love. So, yeah. I'm going with the debut album.
Okay. So the debut album is going to win this battle no matter what I say. But yeah, I usually, when I go back to listen to these albums, I listen to Strange Days more for some reason, but comparing them both, I'll go with the debut album first. Break On Through to the Other Side is a heavy, driving, hard rock song. And can you imagine what it sounded like in 1967 when there was nothing like this around, how heavy it sounded then? Because now, I mean, we've been here in 2022, we've been exposed to everything from the heaviest heavy metal to everything else. But in 67, I mean, you had the Stones and the Who and everything around, but this was just driving and heavy, and his vocals, and it's going to be in my top 3. Take It As It Comes. I can not stop listening to that. It's a short song, but it's so specialize in having fun. Like Ralph said, I actually made a post on Facebook, I think on my Instagram today, and just put specialize in having fun. And there's no way I can go against the song Light My Fire. I've heard it a million times, and what they spawned, and then it was a hit a year later with Jose Feliciano covering it. There's a million bands that have covered that song. It's an iconic classic rock song, and it's just an iconic song in general. Everyone has heard this song, whether you're into rock music or anything else. My picks from Strange Days are My Eyes Have Seen You. Like, it's such a great song, and that's also very heavy. I would go with People Are Strange. I love the lyrics, and I use them all the time because someone will talk about someone and acting weird. And I'm like, well, people are strange when you're a stranger. Women seem ugly when you're alone. And, all this stuff. It's just great lyrics that Jim wrote for that, and it's timeless. And Strange Days is my number one song. I as soon as the pandemic started and everything that was going on in the country and the divide and everything, and I use that song all the time because it's like strange days have found us, and they're dragged us down, and they're going to destroy our casual joy. It just lives in this time period, and something that was wrote in 1967 can totally be used in 2020, 2021, 2022, whatever we're in, with all the conflicts and divide and craziness in the world right now. Strange days have really found us all, for sure. I'm gonna, if you put a gun to my head, I'm gonna go with the first album. I'd say if that's the only one I'm gonna have, it's like when a little kid, you go to the store, mommy, you can, daddy, you ask your mom, mommy, can I get a toy? Yeah, you can buy one, and that's the one I'm gonna go with. Just it's such a great album, and I mean, Break On Through the Other Side, it's just killer to start that over. And it's, we talked about the Jimi Hendrix records last week, and this is another like iconic debut album. I mean, right up there with the Hendrix Are You Experienced. 1967 was the birth of the really hard rock albums, I'd say. So
Agreed.
I guess I would wrap this up tonight, and I'd love to thank everyone for giving their time to the channel. And I hope all you guys that are watching out in viewer land are enjoying this content. And please mention your favorite Doors albums, which album you liked the better, what songs you like better from these two. If any of our viewers are old enough to have actually witnessed seeing the Doors, please mention that in your comments, and take a moment to hit like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And we cover everything, as you see, if you watch the channel, everything from classic rock to the heaviest, and the latest in rock and metal and death metal and black metal and everything. We try to cover everything that we like. And of course, check out our website at www.rockfantasy.com. And let's just talk to a couple of our guests that have a channel, like Jack. How's everything on your channel going? And anything new going on you'd like to share with us real quick?
First of all, Steve, thank you for bringing that up. That is awesome. I'd like to ask everybody's help. I am this close to getting to 1,000 views on my review of the Saxon album, Carpe Diem, which I gave a great review.
The new Saxon, yeah.
Please go over there. It would be my second video to get to 1,000, so I'd really appreciate it.
Okay.
Great channel. Great channel.
I just did an episode yesterday, and I was telling Ove all about it, how I went back to my office for the first time in 2 freaking years.
Oh, yeah.
I worked from home for 2 years, and I went back Monday. It was good to see my coworkers, but you know what? It's not the same. So I brought a bunch of my office tchotchkes home, and I did an episode about it. And I'm going to give you a sneak preview. So everybody knows I'm a Seinfeld fan. So I have this waiting in the wings for an episode. It's something that I got at City Field. Yeah. So that'll be in a future episode.
Okay.
Also, I just did something that it's going to premiere tomorrow. It's about this movie that a fellow Sea of Tranquility viewer spent 2 painstaking years to put together, called the the Tull Phenomenon. It's and I do put the link in there, so you'll see it
Okay.
tomorrow. But I do about a 20-minute review on it, and it's just, the guy did an amazing job. And you watch my video, I'll tell you all about it. And then my plan is to have him on in about a week or two to right from the horse's mouth, so he can talk about it.
Cool.
Yeah, Steve Buckley's his name.
Great,
But,
great.
Thank you, Steve.
No problem. Andrew, I know you do some stuff. You interviewed me a few weeks ago. Anything going on
Yeah.
your podcast or channel?
Yeah, I'm the host of the Headbangers at the Hangar podcast. It started out as like it was supposed to be 50-50, like heavy metal and aliens, and then real quick it got to like 90 metal, 10% aliens. But I got an episode dropping later this week. I just interviewed this guy, Kieran Scott, who is the vocalist for, I don't want to say supergroup, but Andy from Bolt Thrower. He's their drummer. They
Okay.
just started up a new band, Death Collector. So Kieran, he's their vocalist. He's in this band, Ashen Crown. So I just interviewed him. And I have an interview coming up with one of the guys from If I Were You, which is kind of a local band around here. They're from like Hopewell. For what it's worth, they got over 2 million views or 2 million streams on Spotify for a couple of their songs. So
Cool.
yeah, slowly but surely. Headbangers at the Hangar. It's on YouTube. So Steve was on there, so check that episode out. We talked about his shop. I don't know
Oh yeah.
how many of you guys really know about his history, but he was super open about it. Very interesting conversation.
I didn't watch it yet, so I don't know if I said anything weird or not.
That was good.
You probably
I guess I did all right. Ralph okayed it for me. He said I did well.
No, good.
And then we got Rick Labonte. What's going on up in Windsor, Ontario? You got any gigs going on or anything up there?
Oh yeah, I'm gigging still with the two bands I'm in, the Formula and the Blue Side. And if anybody interested in my album that just came out, go ricklabonte.com.
And we have a couple at Rock Fantasy still too, so you can pick them up in town if you're around Middletown. And Rand and Ryan, I heard you guys were working on something on Ryan's channel. We talked about off camera, so you guys can chat a little about that. Rand's got a YouTube too, and he's trying to get viewers. So
Yeah.
So-
Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it. They have a requirement on YouTube if you want to go live and have an audience participation kind of thing, which I'd like to do, but you have to have 1,000 subscribers, and I'm sort of stuck at a wall of 596.
Really?
So I only need 404, and it would really appreciate it if I could get to it. I don't know how to get more people to watch my videos. I do these videos where if you like craft work or Tangerine Dream, things like that, with a little heavier edge to it with the guitar, playing along with sequencers and stuff. I do these things called Take One, where I don't do any rehearsal and I don't do any overdubs. I just turn all these, I have 7 synthesizers and I've got 5 amps. So I can turn them on and just let them go on their own. And they've got an automatic drummer in one of them, so I can get a thing going and I can play lead guitar or whatever with it, or synthesizer. And I just call them Take One, and then I put a title after every one after the colon. But it's a one-time thing. I just do it, and it's on YouTube, and it's there for ever. And I've got like 20 of them on my channel.
Cool. And Rand, you've been doing stuff on Ryan's channel. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll talk about that, Ryan.
Yeah, we're doing the history of Genesis, 2 albums at a time.
Cool.
Yeah. We just recorded an episode today that will be premiering tomorrow at 8 p.m. We're talking about nursery crime and foxtrot. I just uploaded and everything right now before we did this video, and it'll be at 8 o'clock tomorrow, so make sure to check that out. And also make sure to just subscribe to the channel. I got a ton of different content. So for the videos, I'm doing only collaborations now because I do a lot of written reviews on my own on Facebook and Instagram. So if anybody wants to do collaborations or anything, just hit me up on Facebook. I'm open to all ideas. You know, I cover all different genres from rock, metal, jazz, funk, electronic, like classic electronic, like Kraftwerk and stuff, new wave, punk,
Cool.
post-punk, hardcore, etc. So just, yeah, check it out.
Well, I hope I promoted everybody else on there, and we gave the rounds. We're all trying to get some YouTube viewers and have some fun and talk about music through these dark days that we're all living through, man. And please take a moment to subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. And we'll be back next week. And I don't really know what we're talking about yet, but bang, have a good night. I hope we did Jim Morrison and the Doors proud tonight, because they're one of my favorites, and their music means so much to me.
I'm the
Absolutely.
lizard king. I can do anything.